Thank you for being here. My name is Trooper Jonathan Appling. I am the Public Information Officer for the State of Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. I just want to introduce the gentlemen who are standing behind me. We have Sheriff Kevin Williams. He's a sheriff here in Marion County. Chief Ronnie Vickery. Chief Vickery is the police chief in Hamilton. Also, District Attorney Jack Bostic is standing behind me. To my left is Secretary of Law Enforcement, Mr. Spencer Collier. And to his left is Clay Barnes from State Bureau of Investigation. As a result of this morning's incident, Leah State Bureau of Investigation is investigating the officer-involved shooting portion of this incident. In conjunction with that, the Hamilton Police Department and the Marion County Sheriff's Department are investigating a double homicide. And having that said, I'm going to turn it over to Secretary Collier and allow him to make some statements.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I'm going to be incredibly brief, just to point out some obvious. As Jonathan mentioned, our role at ALEA, or particularly in this case SBI, is the officer-involved shooting. So we will be the lead and we'll handle that aspect. Additionally, we will offer any assistance that's needed by either the sheriff or the chief in the form of any scene processing or manpower that they may need. The city will take the lead on the actual homicide investigation. At this point, we'll give Mr. Bostic, the DA, an opportunity to speak. Of course, then the sheriff and the chief, and we'll try and answer some questions. But keep in mind, I know you have a job to do, but so do we. So questions that we can't answer, we're not going to answer. So you can ask it in 5 or 6 different ways, things that are relevant to an ongoing investigation. We have policies and procedures we follow. So don't take it personally if we don't answer. We'll just simply move past that. So with that, in no particular order, I guess Mr. Bostic will speak.
Yes, right now we anticipate charges will be filed against Jimmy Cooper for capital murder, for the murder of both Donnie Miller and Miss Linda Cole. Currently, as I understand it, he is at UAB because he was shot during his arrest. This case, of course, will proceed through. As far as the actual death penalty, we have not discussed that with the family, obviously, at this point in time. We will involve them in the decision-making process, as we always do. My inclination right now is to say that, yes, we will be pursuing the death penalty, though. Any questions for me?
Do you have a motive for this? Why do you do
No.
it?
We are still conducting interviews, taking statements, trying to put everything together.
Anyone else wounded in this?
Not that we know of at this point in time.
We heard some information he may have had some mental issues, been committed. Is there any truth to that?
I'll let the sheriff address that. They handle as far as transportation of mental patients and things of that nature.
Mr. Bostic, what has this done to this city and this surrounding community?
Today it's put everyone in shock. I mean, this is not something that anyone ever anticipates or expects. It's just, I would say the entire community is just stunned at this point in time.
And what was his connection?
How was he taken down?
I'll let the law enforcement officers address that issue.
Do you know his connection to the victims? Was he a client of either office?
I believe he had been a business partner of one and a client of the other.
Sir, we understood that there might be a business deal that might have been involved in part of this.
Don't know. We're still interviewing the witnesses and people he had talked to, so we should know more about that later.
Can you go through the series of events that took place today?
I think I'll leave that to the chief and the sheriff. They've been with the investigators here more recently than I have. We've been dealing with some other issues. As far as a timeline, we'll get as good as we can at this point in time.
Do we know about the extent of his injuries as far as the man in the hospital in terms of what he was?
I would say non-life threatening, shot in the leg, and I think a grazing wound to the arm.
Was there any kind of order to keep him away from either one of these locations or people? I mean,
Not that I know of, but that's not something my office would have been involved in.
Let me answer that before you do in consultation with you. Something I should have mentioned that I didn't. What occurred today, two sheriff's deputies were involved, as well as a municipal law enforcement officer. That will be our portion of the investigation.
I can tell you that Mr. Cooper, back last July, commitment order was signed on him by a family member. My office transported him to Jasper to BMU to be evaluated. He was evaluated. At some point in time, he was released. That's what we do, Sheriff's Office. In fact, we've had 2 today to do that. But Mr. Cooper was evaluated at some point in time by BMU mental health. So,
Was he supposed to have access to weapons, or it had not reached that point there?
at that time, no, he didn't have any access at that time. Now, today, he had one, of course, obviously. We don't know how yet. We're still investigating on that aspect.
Sheriff, can we say what kind of weapon was involved in?
It's just a handgun.
How are your deputies doing, the ones that may have been involved in confronting him this morning?
Well, I've talked to both of them, and myself was involved too. We're struggling with it. This is small town America. Alabama, we're rural part. We don't expect that here. Something we don't have a lot of shootings in our county, but we're addressing that situation. We'll have some people come in and assess them and talk to us and go from there. But right now, they're doing fine.
Just talk about how your department became involved in what happened today.
Well, we had officers in court today. It was court day. We had roughly 16 inmates in court, so I had officers at the courthouse. The call comes out, of course, countywide. Luckily, the county seat, we're here in Hamilton. We have officers here all the time, so we responded with Hamilton PD. I was at the jail when the call came in. I left the jail. By this time, the suspect was running down the street, so I was involved also. We're just fortunate, we have a lot of law enforcement in Hamilton because it is the county seat.
And what can you tell us about the victims? Were they longtime residents, families here?
Yes, they were. We're all from Hamilton, and like I said, this is a small town where everybody knows everybody.
And Sheriff, could you say and spell your first and last name for us, please?
Kevin, Kevin, Williams, Williams.
Sheriff, can you give us a rough timeline of how much time elapsed from when he started the first location?
The first initial call, if I'm not mistaken, is around 11 a.m. this morning that we received, a little before 11 a.m.
And how much time's transpired between that stop and the second?
That's hard to judge. That's hard for me to say. It's shortly thereafter.
Do you have any idea at this point how many shots he fired and how many shots your
No,
officer
ma'am, that's still
fired?
on investigation. SBI, like Spencer Collier said, is investigating the officer involved.
Sheriff, did everything basically happen in the street as far as when law enforcement became involved in this shooting?
Yes, where we apprehended the subject was behind the First State Bank in Hamilton. And he was confronted in the street by one of my deputies.
Did it end when either he surrendered or when gunfire was exchanged and he was down and
He was not going to surrender at all.
was he saying stuff to you or others?
He
out
didn't
there?
say, I didn't hear him say a word. No, sir. Not one word.
And was there a civilian involved? I spoke to a man who said he went after him after he left the second location.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. That's part of the ongoing investigation, and so we're not going to discuss that now. Who shot, who hit, who was fired. What the sheriff said is what's pertinent. I've looked at a portion of the video. He had full intentions of killing law enforcement or putting them in the situation where they had to protect themselves. But we're not going to speculate or get into who fired, who hit who. That's part of the investigation. What I can tell you is we will act as promptly as possible to get those answers to you.
The video,
Mr. Collier, is that video from either a body camera or are we talking bank security?
It's just part of it. It's part of the investigation. It was not a body camera.
It was not a body camera.
And Sheriff, you mentioned the mental evaluation. Was there any criminal record on the suspect?
No, ma'am, we do not have any criminal background, not at all. And I would like to say, the legislators of the state of Alabama need to step up, because we have a problem with mental patients with guns. know, our problem in the state of Alabama, we have nowhere to put them. Our county jails are being flooded with mental patients that we legally really can't take care of. We're not trained fully. The state of Alabama needs to step up, in my opinion, and fund that department more, or we're gonna have more people like this that should be not really behind bars maybe at some point in time, but should be in a mental institution. And they need to address this problem, in my opinion.
Sheriff, you've mentioned 2 or 3, what other departments, if any, were involved besides your department, Aaliyah, and Hamilton PD?
Well, we had all kind of departments here throughout the county, to assist us. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Tracy? You know, you talk about Ewan, Winfield, Hackleburg, Berea, Bear Creek, they all came to respond. State agencies, all of them came within a matter of minutes. And you have an active shooter, and that call goes out on the radio, everybody comes.
Do we know why that the suspect was going toward the First State Bank?
He was fleeing on foot. He was fleeing. He's running away.
No, not going after any, we don't know if he was going after any one person or anything, or?
No, sir, I don't think so, but I don't know that answer. We just know he was fleeing on foot when we confronted him.
Now, those victims, do we know who was shot where specifically?
You want to give that, Mr. Spencer?
Yeah, again, that goes back to my opening statement is, you know, pursuant at least to our policy, this is an ongoing criminal investigation, so we're not going to get into those details. I would like to give Chief Vickery an opportunity to speak if he wishes, the Hamilton Chief of Police.
Everybody, they pretty much covered everything that went on today. I would like to thank the departments that did respond in assistance to us, and thank the state, SBI, and everybody else, and let everybody know that we are willing, open to participate in the investigation.
Chief Bostic, if you can say and spell, Vickery, if you can say and spell your first and last name.
RONNY VICKERY.
Chief, could you give us those victims' names one more time?
The Linda Cole and Donnie Miller.
Do we have ages on either of the victims?
Chief, if I may. Yes. On the victims, the Donnie Miller, D-O-N-N-Y, Miller, common spelling, and she is 67 years old. And then Linda Cole, who is 61 years old. Those are our victims. And then the suspect is Jimmy Cooper. He is 57 years old.
Is it Jimmy with a Y or I-E?
It's with a Y.
57, you said?
For now, that will conclude. Of course, the investigation moves along, and if it's at a point where it can be released, additional information will be released. I do want to point out, I felt to point out some of my leadership here. Colonel John Richardson, who's the Director of the Department of Public Safety, is also present. Don't read anything into me being here. I know we talked earlier, our SBI Director is out on vacation, so that's why I'm here. So with that, thank you guys, and as it becomes pertinent, I'm sure we'll reach back out to you.
So 67.